Graham, the Giannis scam, Stefan. I would say who cares about the listing prices? Just don't expect any big price swings in either direction. So to all the clickbaiters and sensationalists, please stop manipulating the data, trying to manipulate the stats to enhance or push your false narrative.
Today's video is going to be a reaction video to Clear Value Tax's most recent housing market video. Now, before I get all of his fans and trolls start bullying me in my comment section, understand this, okay? I'm sick and tired of the division. What I hope to do in this video is extend an olive branch to Brian and allow me to put the missing pieces of the puzzle together. When two people are working on something as complicated as the housing market, everyone will win. And I want to tell you guys again, I like Brian. I've been watching him for years and years. I think he has great accounting advice. I think he's got great opinions on the Federal Reserve, but I definitely think when it comes to the housing market, he's doing surface level evaluation and therefore he's giving surface level opinions. And there are many problems here, you guys, including data manipulation and proprietary information that manipulates median. So we're going to go over all of those things today. And again, understand, I want to help Brian. And in fact, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Brian has recently made roughly $1.2 to $1.3 million, selling roughly 50% of his channel and profit sharing. Now, it does look a little bit like crypto, but either way, I'm a gold member. Here's proof right here. I am a part of his profit sharing platform. So again, when he does good, I do good. When his community does good, I do good. So it's in my best interest to come together and to help Brian. And again, I'm sick and tired of the pettiness. We're entering a year of 2024 where so many of us are about to be divided once again. And anytime that we're divided, you guys, and not united, we lose our power as an American citizen. So again, what I'm trying to say here is, let's stop being petty and let's start being adults who can come together, share perspectives, and grow.
Home prices have reached a new record high again. I do not consider this a housing market crash, but that's just my opinion.
You really need to triangulate the data. You need to use several data sources to really figure out what's going on. And so again, I'm not blaming him. But if you're only going to use one data source and they're manipulating the data, then you're going to manipulate your viewers, whether it's on purpose or not. But either way, let me show you. We have this reference point right here, which is Redfin's monthly median. Their 4-week rolling average is lower. But right now, Redfin is saying that their median is 442,479. When we go to Zillow, Zillow has 362,482, showing only up 3.2%. And this is for June. And what I'm trying to say is that is a swing of $80,000. How could the median possibly have an $80,000 swing? And it's not just them. The National Association of Realtors and Fred Economic Data have the median sales price for June at $426,900. Nevertheless, let's use Redfin data source to really figure out what's the whole record. Is it a new record? Is it not a new record? I want you guys to understand in the last 2 years, how much have home values really gone up according to Redfin. Now remember, according to Redfin, we peaked around May of 2022 at $432,500. Fast forward today, in 2 years, the average person has made $10,000 in equity. But the problem is, and this is what I'm really trying to warn people about, it can cost roughly 8% to sell your house, which is $35,000. And if you don't believe me, think about it. 6% from realtors, 2% from closing costs, which means the average person right now in the last 2 years, if you bought, is upside down $25,000. And now that we know and understand that it's not true median sales price that we're witnessing and that we're seeing, that brings me to this point. And if you really want to understand what's going on in your local market, you can't use Redfin, you can't use Zillow, you have to use the multiple listing service and do an analysis on the subdivision and the comps in that subdivision. If you're not doing that, then you don't know what the value really is. You're not going to really understand whether or not you're walking into a home that's under market value or whether or not you're walking into a home that's overvalued. So remember, guys, subdivision review is king. That's a fact.
I know the first thing that a lot of people are going to say is that the housing market crash is coming. It's right around the corner. And my response is, I've heard that one before. I've been hearing that for the past 3 years.
There's a reason why we say that, you guys. We have a historical precedent that says we're going to have a recession. Recession leads to unemployment. Unemployment is going to wreak havoc on the housing market. And we have leading indicators, again, historical leading indicators that is telling us that there is an incoming recession. Let me show you. Starting with the 10 and the 2 yield curve inversion. Now, this sucker has been exploding upward the last couple days. You guys, we are only 9 basis point inverted. Now, by the time this video comes out, it's going to change. I'm actually recording this in the morning of the 25th on Thursday. But regardless, we're only 9 basis points from reinversion. Now, when this reinverts, you guys, that's normally when the pain starts to happen. And being that we've been inverted for over 2 years, if it's me, I'm not going to get excited and say, well, I've heard that one before. I'm going to be watching this leading indicator right here, and I'm going to understand that when it uninverts, that's when the really bad stuff happens. This is one of the most trusted leading indicators of an incoming recession. And so I think if you don't talk about it, I think you really are doing an injustice to the people you're trying to help. And that's why I'm reaching out to provide this data. Please consider this. This is probably the biggest leading indicator of all, which is the unemployment rate. And I'm talking about the trajectory. The trajectory of the unemployment rate is suggesting that we are headed into recession. Now, when I max this out, the unemployment rate, you can kind of go back and see that anytime, generally anytime that the trajectory of unemployment goes up, a recession is right around the corner. And again, when I zoom into a year, what's happening to the unemployment rate? In 11 months, it went from 3.5 to 4.1. The unemployment rate, y'all, is something of mass concern. And when unemployment rate spirals out of control, the Federal Reserve has a very difficult time stopping it. And that's when you start seeing rate cuts and additional stimulus measures. I also think it's reckless not to take into consideration why we haven't gone into recession yet. Because like we saw from Brian, he's getting frustrated. He's been hearing this for 3 years. Why haven't we gone in recession? Government deficit spending is certainly one primary reason. Right now, for the year to date, this is not even the end of the year, we're at a deficit spending of $1.26 trillion. During the GFC in 2009, as you can see here, the deficit spending was $1.42 trillion. We are going to exceed the deficit spending this year compared to 2009 great financial crisis, which means this money is propping up the economy. Another leading indicator that I would ask him to consider is the annual change in government percentage jobs. Anytime that we have government jobs account for 25% of the total is generally right before we go into recession. And look at you guys, we've had 24.92% towards the end of 2023. And again, look at going back to the GFC, right before we went into the great financial crisis, we had a similar number at 25.15%. This is a leading indicator that I believe we should be taking into consideration. If you're just going to write off, oh, we've been hearing this so long, then you're really not being constructive with your opinion. And that's what really concerns me about what I'm hearing. I hope that these indicators allow people to understand why we've been saying what we've been saying. A lot of people try to make the point that just because we go into recession doesn't mean that home prices will go down. Now, I absolutely agree with them on that analysis. But what I'm saying, and I hope you guys understand this, is one of the biggest factors is the foundation of the housing market. And when I say foundation of the housing market, it's weak, you guys. And what I mean by weak is income growth just isn't there. And when income growth is not there and home prices skyrocket like they have, we are bound to have a crash or correction just like we did right here. So I'm going to circle you guys from the year of 2000 to 2004. You see that home price growth exploded, and that's in blue, whereas income growth did not. The second half of that century is when we had our correction where home values went down and incomes went up. Now, let's fast forward to 2020 to 2024. Almost the exact same pattern has happened. In fact, it's even worse right now from an income standpoint. We have had massive equity growth, but yet we have almost had zero income growth at all. And when we adjust for inflation, this thing is like this low. So it's not even this high, it's lower adjusted for inflation. I believe what's going to happen is the next half of this decade, we're going to see something like this, where home values actually go down as income catches up. The other factor is this, we're essentially in a double bubble, and I'm going to zoom in here, you guys. This is the CPI versus Case-Shiller. The red line is Case-Shiller value of homes, and this black line right here is CPI, or rather consumer health. And what I want to explain is, again, on top of the lack of income growth, we were already in a bubble before we hit the current bubble. We're actually in a double bubble. And what I mean is from here, okay, which is about 2012, to right here, which is about 2019, we started forming this bubble right here, okay? Now, during this time, the federal funds rate, this was about 2017, the federal funds rate, okay, went up and QT started. Unfortunately, you guys, instead of the bubble getting smaller, we had a world crisis and the entire world was locked down and we entered this double bubble. Now, I've heard people say that we've been in recession since 2012. The reason why most people say that is we had massive quantitative easing right here. And that quantitative easing, or the purchasing of mortgage-backed securities, allowed us to have the first bubble after 2012. In other words, you guys, and you can go back and check this out, we're in a double bubble. So we have a massively weak housing market price foundation. In other words, consumers, it's impossible for consumers to sustain this. I think it's appropriate at the very least to have caution and not belittle the bears. I think caution is definitely warranted from at least a historical precedent.
What I want to say is that people are going to say that in Florida and in Texas, inventory is surging, but prices are not coming down significantly, not significant enough to say or classify it as a housing market crash. I would say, how are home prices today, you know, in Texas, in Florida, compared to 2020?
So to be fair, if we're looking at the percentage and we're looking at the nominal numbers, I would say from a nominal percentage standpoint, we haven't hit an official crash in prices yet. But I will also say that we are in the process of that, and it's actually started since quantitative tightening, which is around March of 2022. And that's when I believe when caution really needed to be expressed and not optimism. But regardless, you guys, I have right here, and I want to get Brian's opinion, I have Austin, Texas. So you're looking at Austin, Texas, and I want to remind the viewers that in Austin, Texas, in May of 2022, the median sales price peaked at $666,000, okay? Fast forward to today, that median sales price has actually dropped $101,915 to $565,000. On average, if you purchased in the peak in Austin, you're down $101,000, which is a total of 15.2%. I've gone on record from the very beginning of my channel saying that I believe the bare minimum start of the housing market crash, when we can really confirm that, is a 15% price decline. So I would like to know if Brian can tell us, or anyone in his community, what is their definition of a crash? Do you think someone losing $100,000 or 15% in equity, is that something that you would consider a crash? The other point I want to make is inventory, and I think this might actually change Brian's perspective. I would love to collaborate and talk with him more with absolute respect. All I want to do is help him, help my community, and help his community, because again, guys, remember, we all win by coming together. Now, it's not just Texas, it's not just Florida. You guys, South Dakota, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, parts of Tennessee and Idaho have near or over pre-pandemic inventory. So we have roughly 9 to 10 entire states right now with more inventory than they had pre-pandemic. That is a fact. If you're only looking at Redfin, you're not understanding what's really happening in the housing market. In fact, you're trusting a company that has proprietary information, that they do better when they're optimistic about the housing market. You can't trust them. And another thing, let's talk about median sales price. Understand, again, it's about subdivision review and comps. That's why I'm always preaching about this, because median sales price can be easily manipulated. And what's happening right now is people are getting home price appreciation confused because only the upper end or the higher priced houses have movement and growth. In other words, if a house is over $1 million, it's flourishing. Everything under about 600,000 is absolutely dead, and that's affecting median sales price. Consider, please, guys, what I'm saying, but let me prove it to you. What we're looking at here is existing single-family home sales. So this is not new homes. I'm going to show you guys data manipulation here in a second, and I think that's really going to help once I can prove to you guys they are manipulating this data. But again, this is from June of 2024, and I want you guys to understand that they've broken this out. This is median sales price. They've broken this into pricing buckets. And again, I want to point out that the $100,000 homes, look at the growth overall. It's down 26%, which, okay, that makes sense. But look at the next tier, 100 to 250. That's down year over year, 17.9%. In fact, where all of us are right here. Most Americans are right here. I'm in that price point. More than likely, you're in that price point. And look it, that's also down 12.4% year over year. And this trend continues until we finally get to the $1 million homes, $1 million plus homes. Look at this, guys. This is the only pricing bucket that has had growth year over year of 3.6%. And so when all of the bottom end of the medians is going down and only the top end is going up, it's going to be easier to get a false reading on median.
Look at the listing prices. The listing prices are coming down dramatically. I would say, who cares about the listing prices? If I wanted to sell my home, I could list it for $500 million and then cut the list price to $1 million. Whoa, look at that price drop.
And if that's something that he did, I would know that that seller of that property is not wanting to negotiate. I would understand that. I would not waste my time putting in an offer. Now, here's what I believe is a grave mistake. If you're not looking at listing price, again, you guys, you're making a huge mistake. Listing price allows us to understand the intentions of the seller and whether or not the house is a good deal, because you take the listing price and then you do your subdivision analysis. You figure out what the average home has sold for in the last year. You look at that listing price and then you can figure out, with the listing price, is it over market or is it under market value? And it's especially important to understand that because, to his point, and we're just thinking this through, but to his point, builders play this game all of the time. I've seen new home builders cut listing prices $100,000, but it's still $40,000 over market. So he has a point there. I've also seen builders go up in listing price and the property is still under market value. So it all starts with the listing price. And with the listing price as a consumer, what we need to do is figure out what deal to make. Is that listing price under market or is it over market value? So I think it's very dangerous not paying attention to the listing price. But as far as leading indicators, I also agree with him that a listing price is not the perfect leading indicator. So please allow me to demonstrate what I believe the leading indicators are in the housing market that is suggesting to me that we will have a massive nominal home price crash this year. Let me show you. In 2022, we had the biggest, fastest price crash in history. Okay, so the second half of 2022, if we compare the leading indicators from right now to 2022, it gives us a clear picture that we will have a nominal price decline this year in the second half of 2024. Now, here's where we're at, you guys, as far as active listings. So active listings and inventory is obviously one leading indicator. And right now, we have more active listings than we did in 2022. And remember, we had to have a surge of inventory like this in order for home prices to start going down. So right now, what I'm trying to say is we are ahead of where we were at in 2022 as far as active listings. So it makes sense that we would have a faster home price correction the second half of 2024. But that's not all. All-time record, literally mind-blowing price drops right now. Now, in 2022, we had price drops accelerate over 5% into the 6%, and that's when home prices really started going down. And what I want to point out is we've been over 6% about 2 months ahead of 2022. So we have a higher pace of home price cuts, more inventory and active inventory than 2022, but that's not all. We also have this leading indicator. Median days on market. Essentially, right now, homes are sitting on the market because ain't no one can buy them. People can't afford it, right? It makes sense. Brian acknowledges this all the time. And that's why I believe that when I present this data, if he watches this, I think it will change his perspective. I think he'll tell himself, maybe we should be cautious. Maybe some metro areas will have a price crash and those people need to be cautious, where maybe other areas will not. But either way, a little bit of caution is needed. And right now, we're sitting at 33 days on the market average. We didn't hit 33 days on the market in 2022 until the end of September. We are 3 to 4 months ahead right now as far as days on market, you guys. Please consider what I'm saying and understand, again, median sales price is strongly manipulated. And if you're wondering what I mean by doing a subdivision analysis, it's kind of like doing a mini appraisal. So let me show you how an appraisal works. Generally what happens is an appraiser uses 3 comparable cells in the subject property subdivision, and then calculations are done comparing characteristics, and then a net value is given. Usually those net values are added together and divided by 3, and we come up with a appraisal price. Now you'll notice in here that the purchase price was $600,000, and yet this appraised for $621,000, meaning that this buyer purchased this home with $21,000 in equity. So it's really, again, important that you understand that you really got to analyze the comps. And that's what you see here. And that is how appraisals are done.
So to all the clickbaiters and sensationalists, please stop manipulating the data, trying to manipulate the stats to enhance or push your false narrative.
Him saying that to me is so mind-blowing to me because I respect this man so much. I feel like he's got mostly balanced, mostly a balanced perspective. So for him to dismiss the other side of the coin and what we're saying is shocking to me, especially because the data that he is using himself is being manipulated. Let me show you. First, let me show you Fred Economics data. Fred Economic data, new home data manipulation, so that there's no question that data manipulation is happening. And if you're just going to stick with one data source, you're automatically going to manipulate people, whether you do it on purpose or not. Look at this, guys. On top, the top chart right here shows normal price buckets that we've been using for the last decade. The below chart shows 2 months later, they changed all of the pricing buckets, thus creating a flat line of median sales price. Again, the top line shows massive price decline with new homes. I can back this up with subdivision analysis. I can show you subdivisions in my market that are showing massive price decline just like this. But they manipulated the data, and now no one knows what's going on. In addition to that, Redfin also manipulates their data. I want you guys to look right here. This is Redfin saying the median home sales price was up 14% year over year to a record $399,998. So almost $400,000. And that's their 4-week rolling average. Just so we have a timestamp here, they said, and we'll just round it up to 400,000. They said the 4-week rolling average hit a new record in June 23rd of 2022 of $400,000. Fast forward to 2024, they've revised that data downward, making a brand new record high, just like with new home data. Look at this right here, you guys. Median sales price is $393,627, all-time high. And look at the date. This is dated almost 2 years after that last article, June 13th, 2024. They have revised the record down by a minimum of $7,000 so that they themselves can push their false narrative. What I'm asking Brian to do and his community, triangulate the data, understand subdivision review, and call on me. I will teach you and your community how to do that. I'm a licensed realtor. I have access to MLS. I've been doing this for the last 20 years. Call on me, man. Call on me. I will help. And I need to ask you, so far, everything I've presented to you, has that changed your perspective? And if it hasn't, why not?
So I'll tell you this. If you're looking to refinance, it's coming. Your opportunity's coming, but probably not until later 2025 to make it worth your while. Because once they start cutting interest rates, they're going to do it gradually. They want to spread it out, the interest rate cuts, over the course of 2 years or more.
You got to be really careful telling people they can refinance and that their opportunity is coming. The reason I think that, you guys, it is so expensive to refinance is absolutely mind-blowing. The amortization schedules make a mortgage a death contract. You pay all of your interest before the principal. Let me show you. To put this in perspective, you can't just refinance. The bigger thing that you could be doing right now is paying money towards your principal. In fact, if you paid roughly $18,000 down on your loan, you would save over $114,000 in interest. Look at right here. This is a loan amount of $324,000, 30-year loan at 7.25%. Total amount of interest that you would pay back on $324,000 is $471,000. And what I believe we should be talking about is how to beat an amortization schedule. If you look here, year 5, the principal goes down to $305,785, which equals a little over $18,000, which means if you pay down $18,000 on your principal, you would knock off 5 years and over $100,000 of interest. Now, if you refinance after 5 years, you have just reset your amortization schedule and used your equity to pay closing costs. In other words, you got to pay that $100,000 the first 5 years all over again. And I think it's really worth trying to consider how much interest you really pay back if you don't refinance the right way. And another thing, if you're not paying down the amortization schedule the right way, you're going to be trapped in your house. And we don't want that to happen. Please don't knock me. Please don't bash me. Please don't bully me. Please don't beat me up. I'm just offering you additional perspective in some of those missing pieces of the puzzle.
Just don't expect any big price swings in either direction.
The last thing I want to say is I definitely disagree with that statement. I believe that we're going to have a nominal price decline from now until the end of the year of near double digits. So again, I believe from July 14th to the end of December, we're going to have roughly a 9 to 10% nominal price decline. And the reason I'm saying that, again, everything I presented you, weak foundation, unemployment, recession around the corner, everything is overpriced, and the leading indicators are stronger than 2022. And in 2022, the second half, you guys, we also went down 9%. But this year, those leading indicators are stronger. The yield curve inversion is almost uninverted. We are almost in recession. Unemployment is skyrocketing. There's no consumer savings left. Consumers are making less money. Defaults are skyrocketing in every area of consumer debt. So again, buckle up, guys. I think right now is a time for caution. And if you're out there investing in real estate, you guys already know I wish you luck, and I hope you win.